the Penguin Modern Collection. I've talked about the Penguin Modern Collection in a different video. I'll just say very briefly, it's 50 authors from the last 100 years or so, and a short selection from each one of them. So it might have, if the author is a short story writer, it might have a short story or 2 or 3 or 4, depending on how short they are. If the author is a novelist who has written a short story, they might be able to get that in there, you know, even if they're better known as a novelist. Some of the things are essays. For instance, we have Letter from a Birmingham jail. We have Why I'm Not Going to Buy a Computer. We have, I'm just having a quick, The Problem That Has No Name. So some of these are essays about, I was going to look at some, the master's tools will not dismantle the master's house. So we have a little bit of poetry, we have some short stories. What they don't do is take a longer work and then just cut a snippet out. So all these are complete and stand alone. Okay, so I've already done that video, so I don't need to do that video. But I thought I would just talk about a few of the books. I've just pulled out a few here. They have nothing in common with each other except that they were mentioned, that they're contained in this modern series. And I think that I will continue to occasionally make videos so that I can go through those books and not just talk about them as a whole, but talk about each one of them. So Stanislaw Lem, I'll start with. So it's called the Three Electronites. Now, what they've done here is, this is a few short stories from Lem, and one of them is called the Three Electronites, and that's what they've just called this little book. I don't think I mentioned in this video, but all the books are very, very small. They're really tiny. But I mentioned that in another video, so if you're more interested in the modern series, you can go have a look there. Anyway, so this has a few little short stories. One of them is called The Three Electronites. So when you look at the titles of these books, it usually just takes one of the works out of it. These are really, they're kind of fun. They're really kind of cool little stories, I might call it a fable. It's not exactly a fable or a parable, but they kind of read like that a little bit. So the Three Electronites, for instance, is these people who live on an ice planet, and it really is written like a parable. And the other people come to try to take over, but they are foiled. And anyway, so these are 3 sort of science fiction-y kinds of, well, I said 3, I've already forgotten, was it 3 or more? 4 sort of interesting creative takes by Stanislaw Lem, someone who I'd never read before. That's what I love about this series, is because I can pick out snippets of people that I've heard of before but never read before. Now, I'd never heard of Leonora Carrington before, who was a French writer, and this is, again, it's not one short story. It's called The Skeleton's Holiday, but really that's only the title of one of the short stories here. If you've never read Leonora Carrington, all I can say is so strange, so weird. Very short. Well, as you can see, as we've said, it's a very short book altogether, and they've packed in a bunch of stories in here. So they're all very short stories. Really, really strange. Some are very hard to categorize, explain without telling what actually happens. I mean, it's vegetables fighting each other. There are carnivorous rabbits. There's all kinds of stuff going on in here that is really, really strange. I can't decide if I like it. My daughter's read them. She's about 15. She enjoyed them for their weird, or she enjoyed them, though they are weird. She didn't enjoy all of them. But yeah, I kept reading them. I was interested to find out what happened in the end of each one of them. So it's not a no, but they're just so weird. Okay, so I might have mentioned that they're weird. This one is Truman Capote, The Duke in His Domain. This is really an article that he's written, a sort of a long form article about his time interviewing, oh my gosh, I've suddenly forgotten his name, which is hilarious. Interviewing the guy who played the Godfather. You can help me here. Yeah, you can help me. We can get it. Marlon Brando. Whew, that's crazy. So you can tell I'm getting older. Marlon Brando is sort of hanging out in a hotel in Japan while filming a film, and Truman Capote goes there and interviews him and talks to him. I have to say, so Brando was fairly young at this time. He does not come off well. Not to me anyway. He comes off as being very sort of, to me, he comes off as being sort of phony deep. Like not really deep, but phony deep. He does not come off well. And I'm a huge fan of Marlon Brando as an actor. I just think that he is incredibly natural and charismatic and magnetic, and I would watch him in anything. But but this interview, he does not come off well. It's still interesting. It's an interesting interview. There's nothing against the interview, but thinking about Brando doesn't come off well in this. Not to me. He doesn't come off completely terribly, but I wouldn't want to hang out with the dude. Okay, so that's that one. Then we have Dorothy Parker. Dorothy Parker, known as a wit of her time, as a clever, witty person. And these stories have some clever, witty parts, but they're not like sparkling, witty stories. See, I'd never read Dorothy Parker before. I'd only heard of her as a wit, as someone from the Algonquin Club who had a lot of great comebacks and great one-liners, and I never really read any of her stuff. Again, great. It's a great reason to get the series here, but yeah, these were not short, witty kinds of things. She had witty moments in there that I thought were really good. She one guy is drinking. I can't remember the exact quote, but he said, "His hand, look at my hand. It's as steady as a butterfly." I thought that was pretty funny. Steady as a butterfly. And there were a few other, there were some good one-liners, but mainly they were just stories, and they weren't very happy stories. They were good, and they were interesting, and Dorothy Parker knows how to write. So I don't know why I'm concentrating so much on how it wasn't what I expected. Yeah, three sort of really almost melancholy stories. Well, maybe, I think actually two of them were more melancholy, but yeah, interesting. You know what? There's one other that I wanted to pull out, and I guess I forgot to before, which is the Shirley Jackson one here. I'm talking about weird. Now, many people know of Shirley Jackson as being a short story, a master of short story, and sure enough, we have a few short stories here. And the first one, they're really different. So the first one here is about a girl, like at a sleepaway camp, who goes missing, and the very, very disappointing and scary ways that people didn't really care that much that she went missing. So that was kind of a disturbing one. I think of Shirley Jackson as writing disturbing kinds of things. The second one wasn't disturbing at all. It was a really cute, sweet, funny little story about a boy on a train. And then the last one was disturbing and scary and what's going on and really interesting. But then also not. I mean, in the end, you don't walk away from it feeling uneasy as much. I don't know. It's really interesting. I need to read more of Shirley Jackson. I know she's not an unknown name. So anyway, that's a few books here that I have just sort of pulled out to talk about. And I think I'll continue to do that. It's a longer than usual video, but I hope you hung in there if you found it interesting. And so here's a selection from the Penguin Modern series. That is not the Modern Classics series, but the Penguin Modern series.